Ksoo just confessed to killing Bibby.
But Bibby, I don't even know gang number. I bang Bibby. Who that crying about in the song every day.
For years, Julio's cousin bragged about it online like it was some kind of trophy. But that confession? That wasn't even the craziest part. Word on the street is Ksoo later got smoked in jail. And what happened after that split Jacksonville down the middle all over again. Because this wasn't just another headline. This was the murder that started it all.
Bro, he was like, that's my little twin. Like, I got him tatted on my face. Like, that's my little bro.
There are certain stories in hip-hop that hit different. They don't just trend for a week and disappear. They shift the entire conversation about what really happens when the music stops and the streets start talking for real. In the story of Ksoo, this is one of those stories. When you really break it down, the bodies, the confessions, the snitching, fathers testifying against sons, families torn apart, it sounds like a Hollywood script, except every piece of it is real. Documented, filmed, filed into the permanent records of the state of Florida.
One day, I was at my godmama house in the hood where we from on 45th. And every day after school, he'll come to me, like he coming straight to me, we chopping.
So let's rewind to the beginning, because if you don't understand the war that was erupting through Jacksonville's streets, you'll never understand how a 16-year-old kid ended up face down in a parking lot, or why the man accused of pulling the trigger decided to hop online and flex about it like it was a music video.
He come to me and I'm like, look, bro, it's hot outside, like the police. I ain't even think about no, like.
Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County, became ground zero for one of the most violent and publicly documented gang conflicts in modern rap history. On one side, ATK, Ace's top killers, led by young rapper Young and Ace, real name Kenyatta Bullard. On the other side, KTA, Kill Them All, a faction closely tied to 6 Block, represented most famously by rapper Foolio, born Charles Jones II.
Man, I ain't worried about none of that, man. I'm yada, 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 man. I don't even care, man. I'm in the hood.
This wasn't just diss tracks and Instagram captions. This was retaliation after retaliation, bodies dropping year after year in an endless cycle of get back that has claimed more than a dozen lives since at least 2017. It escalated in 2017 with the shooting death of Zion Brown, a KTA affiliate and cousin of Julio's. In June 2018, Young and Ace was ambushed outside a Jacksonville nightclub. He survived 8 gunshots. 3 of his friends, including his own brother, didn't.
I love you, bro. Be safe, And that's how it always ends. Like, with so many people with me, like, they last word with me be, I love you. Be safe.
The divide became permanent that night. Then, in January 2019, Charles Lil McCormick Jr. was killed, stacking another name onto an already growing list. And right in the middle of all this chaos stood Hakeem Robinson, known in the streets as Ksoo. ATK through and through, close to Ace.
15 to, I'm gonna say 20 to 25 minutes later, I get a call. A shooting just happened in Hilltop. I don't know, I'm not even thinking.
According to federal prosecutors, he wasn't just rapping about war, he was allegedly one of ATK's top shooters. And then came February 25, 2019. Barely a month after Lil Buck's death, Adrian Gaynor Jr., known throughout Duval as Bibby, was shot and killed at the Hilltop Village Apartments. Bibby wasn't a random bystander, he was deeply connected to KTA. To many, he was like a little brother to Foolio himself.
Somebody else called me. You good? Why everybody say you dead, big bro? My big brother called me. Where you at? They said you dead in here.
Foolio later described the last time they were together. Bibby had stopped by their grandmother's house on 45th Street after school, just like he always did. That's how tight they were. Foolio even had Bibby's name tattooed on his face. That's more than friendship. That's family in the trenches. And that day, Foolio told him something that would haunt him forever.
I'm like, oh my God, like, I just hang up the phone. One of my godbrothers walk in the house. He like, bro, they say Bibby dead, bro.
Don't go outside. The block is hot. Not like the weather. Hot like police presence. Hot like tension. Hot like something bad was in the air.
He wasn't even focused on rivals at that moment. He just felt the energy shift. Something was off.
Like, that's just like, that was like one of the worst losses, like, cause it's like, I just had told him, like, do not, like, it's hot outside.
But Bibby didn't want to hear it. He said he was heading to Hilltop to smoke. So Foolio did what big brothers do. He told him he loved him, told him to stay safe. Those were the last words he ever said to him. 20 minutes later, the calls started coming in. Shots fired at Hilltop. At first, it seemed routine. Shootings were almost normal in Jacksonville. But then details surfaced. A 16-year-old, school uniform, gray sweater, burgundy shirt.
A couple months later, there was a rapper named Ksoo
Yeah.
who basically was posting videos bragging about, killing, different KTA.
Foolio already knew. Bibby had been shot at close range, struck in the back of the head and neck. Police recovered 45 shell casings at the scene. 45. Whoever did it didn't fire once or twice. They emptied everything. A 16-year-old kid stepped off a school bus and ended up lifeless in a parking lot. Foolio later admitted that loss broke something in him permanently. But what happened next made everything worse. Instead of disappearing, instead of staying quiet, Ksoo allegedly jumped online, posting photos, taunting rivals, dissing Bibby in songs. He even reportedly released a project titled Bibby Out, featuring imagery referencing deceased KTA members. It was as if a real human life had been turned into a rollout strategy. Even Foolio, someone raised in that same environment, shook his head during interviews at how reckless it was. Because here's the reality. A murder charge never expires. There's no statute of limitations. You can be arrested decades later. So why post anything? Why give detectives screenshots? Yet that's exactly what prosecutors used. In September 2020, Ksoo was arrested for Lil Buck's murder. While awaiting trial, he was later charged with second-degree murder in Bibby's killing.
Like, for me, I don't know why you would commit a murder and then go on the internet and brag about the murder. It just makes sense.
Every post, every lyric, every Instagram live, all evidence. The Lil Buck trial came first, and this is where the story takes its most shocking turn. The key witness who sealed Ksoo's fate wasn't a rival, it wasn't a stranger, it was his own father, Abdul Robinson Sr. He had initially been charged as an accessory after the fact, accused of helping co-defendants flee. Facing his own time, he cooperated.
Court does hereby remand you to the custody of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and your bond in this matter shall be revoked.
He turned over phone records, explained internal movements, provided inside details. 7 days of trial later, July 31st, 2025, the verdict came down. Guilty. First-degree murder. Life in prison. No parole. No early release. Mandatory sentence under Florida law. The judge revoked bond immediately. It was over. Later that year, sentencing was finalized. Life without the possibility of parole.
A murder has no statute of limitations, period. You can get arrested for a murder 40 years later.
When asked if he understood, Ksoo responded calmly. No emotion, no outburst, just acceptance. Then came February 23, 2026, nearly 7 years to the day after Bibby's death.
All right, Mr. Robinson, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of the offense charged in the indictment in case number 2020 CF 360.
Ksoo pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for Bibby. No trial, no jury, just a straight plea. 10 years in prison plus 5 years probation to run consecutive to his life sentence, meaning even if the life sentence were overturned, he'd still serve time for Bibby.
All right, Mr. Robinson, if you'll come forward for sentencing. All right, Mr. Robinson, again, on July 31 of 2025, the jury found you Guilty as charged in count 1.
Social media exploded. Some said 10 years for killing a 16-year-old was a joke. Others said it didn't matter, he's already serving life. But here's the part that hits the hardest. Bibby was 16. 16. Not old enough to vote, not old enough to drink, barely old enough to drive. And now his name is permanently etched into one of the bloodiest rap conflicts of the last decade.
Murder in the first degree by unanimous verdict, and at this time this court will then adjudicate you guilty of that offense and sentence you to the only lawful.
This wasn't just a beef, it was a war where music amplified street politics and social media turned tragedy into spectacle. And in the end, no one really won. Not ATK, not KTA, not the families. Just more funerals, more prison sentences, more names added to a list that keeps growing.
This court can impose, and that is mandatory life in prison without the eligibility for parole. Do you understand your sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the part they don't put in the music videos. But at the end of the day, strip away the noise, the rumors, the blog headlines, and here's the bottom line. Ksoo confessed. After years of dissing Bibby in songs, after years of clout-chasing off a dead teenager, after years of sitting in interrogation rooms pretending he didn't know anything.
Like, broke me, like, you know?
Well, a couple months later, there was a rapper named Ksoo.
Yeah.
Who basically was posting videos bragging about.
He finally stood in front of a judge and admitted it. He killed that boy. The 16-year-old kid who had just stepped off a school bus, a kid who was warned not to go outside, a kid who didn't listen. And now his killer will never step outside again. Ksoo is sitting in a Florida state prison, serving life without parole, plus an additional 10 years stacked on top. There is no realistic path back to freedom, no parole board miracle, no early release. It's concrete, steel, in time. But what makes this story even uglier, even harder to digest, is the betrayal that sealed his fate.
Because when people talk about what really brought Ksoo down, they don't just mention Instagram posts or diss tracks. They mention his father, Abdul Robinson Sr., the man who raised him, the man who was supposed to stand beside him. Instead, he became the prosecution's star witness. Robinson Sr. wasn't some square civilian. He had his own history in the streets, a long rap sheet, deep ties, real involvement. Prosecutors described the Robinson family as central figures behind ATK, operating what law enforcement labeled a violent drug trafficking organization. When Robinson Sr. caught his own charges, accused of helping suspects flee after the Lil Buck murder, he faced a choice: ride for his son and risk decades behind bars, or cooperate and save himself. He chose himself. He pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact. He handed over phone records registered in his own name. He broke down how the operation worked, who moved where, who called who, how ATK functioned behind the scenes. When your own father sits in court and tells the jury what happened, there's no defense strategy strong enough to fix that. It was over. And the consequences didn't stay inside the courtroom. After testifying, Robinson Sr. faced pressure in jail. In interviews, he admitted to getting into fights. In that world, being labeled a snitch isn't just bad for your image, it can be dangerous for your life. He later tried to frame his decision as practical. He claimed the evidence against his son was overwhelming, that cooperation was the smart move, that he didn't fully understand what his son was involved in. Maybe he believed that. Maybe he didn't. Either way, he avoided what could have been a 20-year sentence. Instead, he received time served, 2 years of community control with an ankle monitor, and 3 years of probation. He walked out. His son didn't. And Ksoo didn't forgive, not even close. In a jail phone call after pleading guilty in the Bibby case, he reportedly said, "This is the life I chose," then added that he was waiting for his father to die. Let that sit for a moment. A man serving life without parole, and the thing eating at him isn't the appeal, not the case, not even the victims. It's betrayal. That's not regular anger. That's a wound that doesn't close. The destruction didn't stop with father and son. It rippled through the entire family. Ksoo's brother received 12 years on accessory charges. His sister, Karna Robinson, was shot in 2021 by a bail bondsman during a warrant situation. His father now lives under house arrest with an ankle monitor, reportedly planning to leave Florida entirely. The Robinson family wasn't bruised by this war. It was shattered, and nobody walked away clean.
Meanwhile, the war didn't end just because Ksoo went to prison. On June 23, 2024, Foolio was shot and killed in Tampa at just 26 years old. The same man who mourned Bibby publicly, who recorded Bibby's story, who wore chains honoring his little brother. The same cycle that took Bibby eventually took him too. The streets don't retire you with a pension. They retire you in a casket or a cell. Now let's clear up the rumor mill. There's been heavy talk online that Ksoo was attacked or killed in prison after pleading guilty. Extensive searches show zero credible evidence supporting that. As of now, there is no verified proof that Ksoo was harmed after his plea. The confirmed jail incidents involved his father, not him, and those happened after his testimony in 2025. That distinction matters because in hip-hop media, rumors spread faster than facts, and once people hear someone got smoked behind the wall, they run with it without checking sources. Ksoo's story is already heavy enough without adding fiction. Here's the reality. He killed a 16-year-old. He bragged about it online. He was convicted of first-degree murder in another case, with his father's testimony helping secure the verdict. Then he pleaded guilty to Bibby's murder 7 years later. Life without parole, plus 10 consecutive years. His rap career is over. His family is fractured. His appeal on the Lil Buck case is pending, but the Bibby plea is final. No takebacks. Zoom out. What do you really see? Bibby, dead at 16. Lil Buck, gone at 23. Foolio, dead at 26. Ksoo, locked for life at 27. Scotty, life sentence. Brother, 12 years. Father, house arrest exile. An entire generation from Duval County either buried, caged, or permanently scarred. That's the real headline. Not the diss tracks, not the viral moments, not the Instagram captions. The wreckage. Maybe the hardest moment of all was Foolio describing that final conversation with Bibby, telling him to stay inside, watching him walk out anyway, carrying that guilt forever, and then losing his own life not long after. The cycle never slowed down. It just kept spinning, eating young men alive one after another, leaving behind prison numbers, headstones, and grieving mothers. Ksoo said it himself, "This is the life I chose." Now he has the rest of his natural life to sit with that choice, behind bars, no parole, knowing the same internet he used to flex on became part of the evidence that helped bury him. This isn't a movie, it isn't entertainment, it's documented reality. And the people who died, they're not coming back. Not Bibby, not Foolio, not Lil Buck. And Ksoo will spend the rest of his life knowing he played a role in that. That's not just a sentence, that's a permanent ending.